I'll hold my hands up. I didn't play the original version of Sonic Colors when it came out. Instead of a Wii, I had an Xbox 360, so while I did play Sonic 06, Unleashed, and Generations when they were new, Colors completely passed me by. The Sonic community has always spoken very highly of Colors, and I'd often felt like I'd missed out on something special. The release of Sonic Colors Ultimate Edition seemed like the perfect opportunity to finally play both the original and the remaster. For that reason, while this review will focus on the remaster, its changes, and its new additions, I'll also be discussing Colors as a whole. I'll be considering its gameplay, overall value, and impact. Now, some people will say that, as a card-carrying Sonic fanboy who simps for Sega, my opinions are biased and invalid. Please let me take this opportunity to personally reassure you that I have no idea where those concerns could be coming from. Sonic Colors is the second game in the Boost series, arriving 2 years after Unleashed and 1 year before Generations. That said, it has its own twists on the gameplay template of its more powerful brothers. In Unleashed and Generations, you have a boost gauge in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen. This fills up as you collect rings and can be used to give Sonic a burst of speed. In Colors, you have the same gauge, but it's not powered by rings. Instead, you collect capsules of aliens called Wisps to refill it. Wisps aren't as abundant as rings, so the developers have a lot more control over when the player can and can't boost, providing them with an opportunity to create a more curated thrill ride. To an extent, this could even be seen as a direct counter of the press boost to win criticism Unleashed garnered at the time. Instead, it resulted in me rarely boosting at all. I went into JRPG Hoarder mode and treated my boost gauge like potions. I don't know when I might need it, so I stockpile it. There are also sections, like the end of Tropical Resort Act 2, where there's a row of enemies you're supposed to boost through, but no Wisp top-ups in sight, leading to a painful section of attacking the robots one by one. What you're supposed to do here is use the Cyan Laser Wisp, which allows you to take aim, zipping around as a bolt of light, to destroy everything in one satisfying go. But you don't unlock that Wisp until the next act, meaning its capsule is blank on your first visit. I suppose I should explain that Wisps come in a variety of colours and grant Sonic special abilities. The yellow Drill Wisp lets Sonic burrow underground for secrets and swim freely underwater. My issue with the yellow Drill Wisp is a lack of direction. Sure, you can go anywhere, but there's a lot of surface area to cover, and you're also on a time limit before the power-up runs out. I often end up frantically looking for an exit instead of enjoying a good dig around. Blue Cube Wisps swap the state of blue rings and blue cubes. It's actually put to really interesting use in a few puzzles, and mastering it is the only way to grab some of the game's collectibles, a topic we'll return to later on. I actually really like this one, it became one of my firm favourites. The green Hover Wisp allows you to float. It can also chase a line of rings to quickly zip around. Yeah, they took the light speed dash that Sonic had in Adventure 1 and 2 away from the Hedgehog and instead made it part of a temporary power-up. I see that as a downgrade considering Sonic could do that on his own before. A worse offender is the pink Spikes Wisp. Sure, it clings to walls and ceilings, yes, it destroys blocks, but it's also the only way Sonic can use the Spin Dash, a move that's been part of Sonic's identity since 1992 Sonic the Hedgehog 2 is now gated off. That ain't right. It's a really good, snappy, satisfying and quick Spin Dash too, which makes it all the more frustrating that I can no longer use this thing wherever and whenever I want to. This is Sonic Generations' classic Sonic levels of snappy spin dashing, yet I can only use it for short periods of time when the game decides to let me. I guess it would have been overpowered as one of Sonic's regular moves, but let a man dream! We also have the orange Rocket Wisp, which, turns Sonic into a rocket and fires him into the air. I don't really know what else you're expecting. And the purple Frenzy, which eats everything in sight while growing in size Katamari style. In the remaster, these wisps are joined by the Jade Ghost, but I'll reserve that for when we discuss the remaster's changes as a whole, and trust me, there's going to be a lot to discuss surrounding this remaster. You're going to want to stick around for that segment. To the developer's credit, each wisp is introduced in a stage where you're required to use their powers in order to progress. The training wheels are very much on, and you quickly understand what each of the aliens can do. After you unlock a new wisp, it becomes available to use in other levels. This means it's fairly common, and somewhat frustrating, to find an empty capsule you can't use yet, knowing that it probably unlocks a shortcut or collectible. This is less Metroidvania, getting stronger and learning new moves in a satisfying way, and more artificially padding out the length of the game. The wisps are also incredibly situational. You have very little opportunity to combine or experiment with them. Their purpose is usually immediately obvious, you use their gimmick once, you move on. I only recall one mandatory stage that acted as a puzzle box, combining the blue cube and pink spikes wisps in an engaging manner. There is one reward for wisp mastery, and that's beating the bosses that much faster. Each boss is weak to a particular wisp power-up, and you can use them to end the battles in seconds once you figure it out. It remains satisfying even after the bosses start to become copy-paste clones of one another. They try to change their homework just enough, and they all fall short. Sadly, you can only carry one wisp power at a time. I'd love to have been able to hold two, swapping between them Mario Kart Double Dash style, so I could combo them. This could be considered a spoiler for a decade-old game, but the final boss does mix, match, and combine wisp powers in ways the player never gets to. I'd have loved to have seen more flexibility in this system, yet as it stands, the wisps are often a detriment to the flow and pacing of stages. Not that Sonic Colors needs any help with destroying its own pacing. Look, when the game's firing on all cylinders, it's a genuinely great time. There's an awesome Sonic game in here somewhere, but there are also sections of levels where all you can do is sit and wait. For a Sonic game, it can feel incredibly slow. That's not to say zones like Marble haven't existed before. However, that was the very first game in 1991 when the industry as a whole was still relatively immature and trying to figure things out. I can't make the same excuses for a game that originally released in 2010. There are also 7, yes Chaotix, you heard that right, 7 acts per zone now. That's overkill, especially when they recycle sections of acts you've just played. To be fair, you do unlock multiple planets at a time, so if one area is wearing thin, you can get a change of scenery by going elsewhere. However, at some point, you will have to come back and finish that planet. Prepare to spend 30 to 40 minutes, the length of an entire Mega Drive Sonic outing, looking at the same scenery and assets. The acts are also very inconsistent in length. Some go on for several minutes, while others feel like 30-second minigames. It speaks to a potential insecurity on Sega's part, that the game wouldn't sell if it was too short. This game ditches Sonic's entourage, possibly in response to fan feedback at the time. Instead of presenting multiple playable characters with different gameplay styles experiencing interweaving storylines, Colors doubles down on having you play as just the Blue Hedgehog himself, allowing the team to focus on a single core gameplay loop. To its credit, their decision does provide some welcome consistency, and the highs of Sonic's mechanics are very satisfying, yet it does come with some drawbacks. While you could claim Unleashed and Generations do the same thing, Unleashed had the Werehog, for better or worse, while Generations featured classic Sonic for some gameplay variety, something Colors simply doesn't offer in any meaningful way. If you're just playing stage to stage in a linear order, you can reach the credits in as little as 3 hours on a casual playthrough. Heck, the world record for speedrunning Colors is currently 40 minutes and 4 seconds. There's not a whole lot here, although you could argue that longevity has never been the draw of this franchise. It took me less than 4 hours to stream Sonic's 1, 2, 3, and Knuckles back to back after all. There are attempts to extend the runtime. Each stage ranks you from D to S, providing some with an incentive to S-rank every stage. The Egg Shuttle is a marathon mode, where you play all 40-something acts back to back without a break or any way to save and resume. It kind of reminds me of Dead Rising's Infinity mode in a sense. These are little touches that could grab the attention of dedicated players, but what about everyone else? Presenting the main attempt to extend the game's length, Red Rings. Each stage has 5 of them, and these go from, hey, I can see where it is, I can figure out how to get to it, and it presents a fair challenge, to, what do you mean I've missed one? I've just picked up the 4th and the goal ring is right here! Where could it possibly be, huh? If I do go for 100%, I'm going to need a guide, especially as the remaster changes the location of some of the red rings. Collecting red rings unlocks new stages that include throwbacks to classic Mega Drive Sonic stages. Beating all of those unlocks the Chaos Emeralds and eventually Super Sonic, a decent completion reward. It's very interesting to see how modern Sonic's control style and physics translate to these historic layouts. The franchise has certainly come a long way, I'm just not convinced that it's always been going forwards. Ooh, that sentence is going to make me popular in the comments. There's a huge disparity in the quality between the 2D and 3D sections of colours. As someone who grew up with Sonic and prefers the Mega Drive games overall, you might reasonably assume I prefer the 2D sections here. The reality is that I love the 3D sections and actively groan when the game switches back to this half-hearted attempt at 2D. These especially highlight that Sonic's 2D controls are imprecise and slippery. Seriously, why can't I use the D-pad in 2.5D sections? Why am I forced to use the analog stick, which has inherent delay due to travel? I'm used to a Sonic that moves quickly and demands precise inputs. Here, I have a Sonic that's equipped with a floaty double jump, hopping around massive platforms the size of a minivan to overcompensate for a lack of refined, responsive controls, instead of, fixing the core issue. I can never be 100% confident in where Sonic's going to land or stop. Don't get the wrong idea. For the most part, the gameplay is fine, enjoyable, fit for purpose. I had fun with my playthrough, I just wasn't wowed. Multiple paths are here, rewarding skilled gameplay is here. This is a competent mid-tier Sonic game. I'm just wondering if competent is good enough when we have better alternatives. I tend to be harder on Sonic games because I love the franchise and I want to always see it at its absolute best. This is a good showing, but there's a lot of room for improvement. Did the remaster capitalize on those opportunities? Did it manage to transform a good Sonic game into a great Sonic game? Can I now call Sonic Colors a must-play? The short answer is no. Maybe that was too harsh. There are some upsides. In terms of presentation, we get some pretty massive changes. The game has moved from 480p at 30 frames per second to 4K at 60 FPS. This is something that was obvious as early as the title screen, where Sonic is surrounded by the alien wisps. The aliasing of the Wii version completely disappears as we get a considerably clearer and better defined image. Sweet Mountain's map reinforces the difference in the level of detail. Keep your eye on the donuts as we transition from the Wii U footage to the PlayStation 5. There's a night and day difference. Let's overlay that Wii U footage at its native 480p to get a better sense of just how big of a jump up it's had. You can really feel the improvement to the frame rate too. Animations look smoother, and there are now twice as many windows of opportunity for player input. If I slow this footage down, it should become immediately apparent to you. These comparisons are arguably unfair, as I'm using a Wii U being recorded over HDMI for the original release. When we consider that Colors came out for the Wii 2 years before the Wii U was even a thing, so was played on a console that was packaged with composite cables, didn't even have a HDMI port, and vastly outsold the Wii U, we can assume that most consumers probably experienced a significantly worse visual presentation back in 2010. One area that did disappoint is the cutscenes. In the Wii version of the game, they were pre-rendered as shown by the compression artifacts visible when playing on a Wii U over HDMI. This was likely a decision made due to a combination of the Wii's low horsepower and the likelihood of in-engine cutscenes presenting technical challenges. This was probably the right call at the time. It seems like Blind Squirrel, the remaster team, only had access to the 480p final renders from the Wii version. It's understandable that any source files for these animations have been lost to time, given Colors is an 11-year-old game for dead hardware, and source control is a problem for a lot of companies. Silent Hill 2 HD, Final Fantasy VIII Remastered, and Spyro Reignited all come to mind immediately. Blind Squirrel had two choices: manually and painstakingly trying to recreate the cutscenes in-engine, trying to match the originals as closely as possible with the risk of still getting it wrong anyway, or use automated AI upscaling to bring the 480p videos up to 4K. I can't really blame them for picking the latter option. That said, while the results looked okay in YouTube trailers pre-release, seeing it running locally on a 50-inch 4K television is an entirely different experience, where the results look pretty awful. Going from gameplay to any of these cutscenes brings about a sense of visual whiplash. There have also been some subjective changes. It looks like Colors was ported via the Godot engine. Being a game from a previous generation, the Wii libraries for shaders, lighting, and general 3D rendering were likely obsolete and no longer supported. The team probably had to create brand new shaders and light sources for this port. That's led to a lot of people saying the remaster is a visual downgrade in terms of aesthetic. Personally, as someone who didn't play the Wii release until now, I think the game looks okay in motion. Yes, if we stop and pause on specific frames or compare side by side, I can start to say, oh wow, that muzzle is overly yellow, Sonic's smile is painted on, and his eyes no longer move. In isolation and in motion, however, many of the complaints are so blink and you'll miss it to my eye that it doesn't impact the overall experience. It could, however, provide a distracting lack of polish for those more familiar with the original release. Some people were doing pre-release graphics comparisons using the Dolphin emulator, and I think that shows us what we could have gotten had Blind Squirrel taken the path of least resistance and done the absolute bare minimum we've seen in other recent re-releases of Wii games. To give this $34.99 remaster credit, it features more than Mario Galaxy's emulated solution or Skyward Sword's $49.99 full-price release, which merely includes a few quality-of-life upgrades and locks a new feature behind an amiibo figure. Again, statements I'm sure will make me popular in the comments. The Sonic Colors remaster includes brand new features. You have character customization, where you can change Sonic's gloves, shoes, and boost effects. These are unlocked with a brand new collectible, Park Tokens. You can now build your boost gauge by perfectly timing attacks on enemies, indicated by this green reticule, somewhat addressing my hoarding of the limited supply of white wisps. You also have Rival Rush, a mode where you race Metal Sonic in what essentially amounts to a time attack. Let's not forget that extra wisp, the Jade Ghost. This allows you to float around and warp to enemy locations and mini black holes. Weirdly, it's introduced in the Cyan Lasers tutorial stage, and it's entirely possible and plausible that you can beat that stage without ever using it. In fact, its use isn't mandatory during any part of the game, and I think I only used it twice myself. There's a clear effort here, and I can tell you there's content here you can't experience in the Wii original. None of it is substantial enough to make owners of the Wii version feel like their game is now incomplete, but they are nice to have. That effort did seem to run out for the playable credits sequence. The credits are destructible in all versions of the game, and you get to use all of the Wisp powers to help you smash everyone's name. It's fun, quirky, I appreciated it, even if it wore thin after the 13.5 minutes it takes to get through the Wii's credits. The remaster's credits then continue for another 17 minutes. Yes, they need to credit the people who worked on the remaster, but during these additional 17 minutes, there's no music, no more Wisp power-ups, just Sonic using the homing attack and stomp on seemingly endless credits. I think I now know why it's called a credits crawl. Sadly, that lack of care and polish also extends into the gameplay. I did encounter several glitches and performance issues. A quick disclaimer before we dive into these, I am playing version 1.03 at launch. There's every chance that future patches will address some of these issues, but I can only represent the game in its current state. The title would frequently lock up during gameplay, which felt twice as bad as it looks in the footage. The fact that this is happening on a PlayStation 5 is really concerning. Surely the latest console hardware should be able to run a remaster of a Wii game without issue. It looks like I'm not the only one either. People playing on other platforms have reported similar concerns. I think the root cause is the software rather than the hardware, given the multiple platforms it seems to be happening on. Now, the stuttering does become much less frequent, almost going away entirely the more you play, but each time I booted the game up, the first level would be borderline unplayable because of this issue. At the end of Aquarium Park Act 1, the game soft-locked to this black screen. In the end, all I could do was exit to the PS5's main menu, close the game entirely, and restart it. Annoyingly, my progress hadn't been saved, and I had to replay the level. On Planet Wisp, I fell off this quick step section, where you can only move left or right. When Tails brought me back, I had full 360-degree control of Sonic when I wasn't supposed to. My guess is that a Tails save resets Sonic's state, overriding the quick step restrictions. This one's been doing the rounds online, and I hoped it would only impact those with pre-release review codes. By the way, Sega, where was mine? But Sonic is completely missing at the start of Starlight Carnival Act 3. Yeah, I don't have any explanations for this one. While I personally didn't experience issues as bad as those I'm seeing online, the game definitely feels unfinished, unstable, and unpolished from a technical standpoint. Unlike others, I'm not going to make assumptions about or hurl insults towards the quality assurance teams. For all I know, they might have flagged these issues, but been told by management that they weren't prepared to delay the game's release over these problems. Quick edit, this is Future Sam adding something in here real quick after the fact. It turns out some of the problems were reported by people playing the Switch version on the Yuzu emulator. Funnily enough, I wrote a script about the toxicity towards this game in the online fandom during its pre-release, but scrapped it because I didn't want to get involved in the drama. Seeing people damaging Sega's reputation while also having stolen the game and actively misrepresenting its quality is just a brand new low, and I'm genuinely saddened that it doesn't surprise me in the least. And the people complaining the loudest are also the ones begging for an Unleashed remaster? Yeah, good luck with that. Okay, enough cynicism, back to the original script. Again, there's a global pandemic, this game's probably already a year late, the physical release is delayed in EMEA territories while British stores struggle to keep basics like bread and milk in stock thanks to the Brexit COVID 1-2 punch, and we do live in an age of release now, patch later. It's not ideal, I don't like it, and it does give me concerns over games preservation in general, but that's the reality. I don't think the game should have been released in its current state. I do think Sega have suffered a lot of reputational damage over it. I also believe it will be fixed. Eventually. Sadly, Sonic Colors isn't the ultimate Sonic game, and this Ultimate Edition isn't the ultimate way to play it. That's not to say the game isn't worth your time, however. I think you can have fun with this if you set your expectations going in. I've tried to go into this one with an open mind. There are glimmers of something truly great here, but Colors is an overall mixed bag. I can't, in good conscience, recommend the remaster in its current state, though. If you'd like to play this one, consider grabbing the Wii original instead. Thank you, as always, for watching. Massive shoutouts to my patrons, Chocolson and Crow. If you'd like to see your name here and get copies of scripts before videos go live, hop on over to my Patreon and, give me your money, I guess. Of course, you can also support the channel for free by liking, commenting, subscribing, and sharing the video around. There are certainly many more Sonic games I've yet to cover, so strap yourselves in.